Welcome back to the Sully Scoop, where three lifelong Husker bros dive in depth on all surrounding the new era of Husker football, where our cups never run dry of the Rule-Aid under head coach Matt Rule. Made by fans for fans with J-Saul, B-Saul, and T-Saul. Right spot to learn about the Huskers, and that is the Sully Scoop. And once again, you're here with J-Saul, B-Saul, and T-Saul. And before we get started, we want to tell you, make sure you got your phone in your hand already. You are listening to the Sully Scoop. Why don't you go ahead and open Google and type in the SullyScoop.com. It'll bring it to our website, new, up and running. It'll show you where you can listen to the podcast, every other spot. You're already listening to it in one. Why not catch it at a different platform? And then you can find out more about the Scoopers themselves, along with our social medias are linked to that, so you can click through and find out more. But before we get going, if you are watching this video of the Sully Scoop, you could see the hat I am wearing, official brand, the Sully Scoop. And we got the Sully Scoop t-shirt. And we got the Sully Scoop flag behind B-Saul sitting back there. Your other shoulder there, B-Saul. Clearly his first time. We didn't do a run through there, my friends. But we will be getting ready to... Don't forget to enjoy your coffee in the morning out of the official Sully Scoop coffee mug. But for this episode of the Sully Scoop, we got to dive into the spring game where we saw our first glimpse of what it looks like for Dylan Raiola to take the field in Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, I'll start this one off real hot and real quick here, J-Saul. The Heisman Trophy is coming home this year. Dylan Raiola. He's the real deal. He's got it. He's it. He's the it factor. He's all over the place. He's hitting people all over the place. Dude, we got our guy.
So there's one thing here, and listen, Dylan Raiola showing up to this, playing in this spring game, really did just kind of cement what Husker fans knew when they got him as a recruit. When you also look at it, the other two quarterbacks didn't play terrible either. This looks to be a very good quarterback room for the first time in years. When is the last time Nebraska had a quarterback coming out of a spring game that everybody was this excited about? I think you have to go back to maybe Sam Keller, because there was so much hype against him. He bottomed out, but I don't remember the last time coming out of a spring game that everybody was this stoked about a quarterback.
I remember one guy that everyone was stoked about, but he never even showed up to campus. I forgot his name. He got drafted by the Kansas City
Bubba
Royals.
Starling.
Exactly. And that was one of the top recruits we were supposed to ever get as well. But this is the number one recruit we have ever gotten. This is Dylan Raiola, the top recruit in all of high school football last year. He is the top quarterback coming in, and it really showed. This guy's arm talent is unreal, and I think he's going to be unstoppable. And I do want to say the other two quarterbacks did show some, from Heinrich Harburg, improvements from last year. Danny Kaelin, he's got potential there, but none of them looked more poised in the pocket than Dylan Raiola.
He's the real deal here, B-Saul. And I'll tell you, in my lifetime, since I can remember watching Nebraska football, and remember, folks, I was alive in the 90s, but, I was a toddler. This is the most excited I've been for a Husker football season that I can remember. And that includes all the
I'm going to stop you right there, T-Saul. I'm calling bull on that statement. I think you are this excited every year. Every year going into it. Don't sit here and tell me you're more excited than you were last year.
You're telling me you were excited for that Mickey Joseph year there, B-Saul.
Hey, let me get out my
season, the sprinkle magnet. Every single you were excited for the sprinkle magnet? I don't think so.
Get out
I didn't see you out there, because dropping sprinkles all over your donuts every morning. I didn't see that happening.
I get more excited every single year we keep going. So this is the most excited I have ever been.
J-Saul, that's also a load of crap. You're telling me that you're more excited for the last 7 years watched in the 7 years before that?
Well, T-Soul, I don't live in the past. I live in the future and what is coming. And let me tell you something. When Husker
Coming from the
football's
most
right
cynical
around the
Husker
corner,
fan I've ever
when-
met. That's BS.
He's ready to jump off the train before the train even left the station.
He was
But
on
you
the
wanna-
fire Matt Rule train when he got hired. I don't understand how now all of a sudden you're carrying the Kool-Aid cup. Who is this man?
Hey, you got to be the first at the station if you want to be aboard. And let me tell you something. I am the first every single time. I might be the first on board, and I'll sure be the first off board too. But this year is coming right around the corner, and I am getting fired up for the season because the Huskers are right around the corner, 0-0. We just got to get the first game under our belt with a W.
And it's going to happen there, Jason. I mean, we got a cakewalk week 1. And really, we have a cakewalk through the first 8 weeks. And
You quiet down. We have been saying that for the past, 5-6 years?
we didn't have a quarterback. We didn't have a quarterback. I don't want to hear about Harburg and how you thought he was going to be great next to Jeff Sims. You know, I told you, Beasel is the guy who jumps on all the quarterbacks' bandwagons before he even sees them throw a pass in the spring game. And here now he's telling us to slow our roll when it comes to Raiola. Like, Beasel, where was the slow your roll last year with Jeff Sims? Did you not place a bet for him to be in New York on Heisman ceremony?
That is incorrect, T-Sol. That was not me who said he would be in New York.
Somebody here said that.
Would you like me to pull out the bets from last year, T-Sol? Because I would almost put money that it was you who said Jeff Sims would be in New York.
That
Absolutely
is a damn lie.
Okay, we are going to go back and we're going to fact check here. So while I do that, why don't you guys break down what your thought was on the running game? Because I got to tell you, how the spring game, there were a couple surprises. I know the running back room isn't at full health yet, but this team looks deep.
Now, let me tell you, the running back room is deep, and I think Emmett Johnson is going to be, one of the premier guys for us this year. But a guy that really stood out to me was Dante Dowdle. I think I said that right. Not really sure, but we're going with it, and he's going to keep it that way. Dowdle has a bunch of speed. There's a reason he has speed. He's coming from Oregon. That's what they look for there. This guy has the talent. He can go downhill, and he could go side to side. This guy has the full package. I think it's going to be an elite part of our running back core to be mixing in guys, and I think we have at least 3 guys that could be on the field at all times.
Well, my thing with the running back room is going to be what it was last year, and ultimately derailed our running back room last year is the injury bug. These guys got to stay healthy. We got solid running backs out there. I mean, Jason, you're ready to hand it to Emmett Johnson, but I'm not handing nothing to Emmett Johnson while Gabe Irvin's in the building. I mean, Gabe's my guy, but he's got to stay healthy.
Don't you leave Ramir Johnson out of that either. Ramir Johnson could be a game changer if he figures out how to stay healthy this year.
And Ramir Johnson's pretty far down the depth chart for me personally. I know you've been harping Ramir Johnson, but even when our top dogs went out last year, they still weren't handing him the football. So there's something off there with Ramir. I hope he puts it together, but Gabe Irvin Jr. is my guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen,
and Ramir isn't a guy you're going to be handed the ball to. He's got to be
Ramir's not your handy guy. He's your third down. He's the guy. He's the scat back. He's the screen back. And I think that's going to play a huge role. Now, before we get further here, there is something we need to go back to. T-Sol, I would like to apologize to you. I don't do it very often, but I'm going back to the notes from last season. And the hot take
these
for
notes?
Jeff...
Who took these notes?
The hot take for Jeff Sims to be in New York on the Heisman ceremony night was from Mr. J. Sull. So
he was there. He didn't get invited, but he was there. He flew out there by himself and bought a ticket. Now, Jeff Sims was in the building. I was not wrong.
Now, J. Sull, I do have to point out here that while you had Jeff Sims getting to New York for the Heisman ceremony, which is just an outrageous take in and of itself, T. Sull, on the other hand, picked another Big Ten quarterback to make it to the Heisman ceremony night, and that was Talia Tungavaloa.
And we know how well that went for him. Closer than Jeff Sims. Wasn't he the top quarterback in the Big Ten?
We're not playing horseshoes here. Close enough doesn't count.
Okay,
T-Saul.
well then let's talk about B-Saul's hot take. Didn't he have the Cornhuskers in the college football playoff going up against Georgia round 1?
Undefeated and in the Big Ten championship game and winning it.
I had them in the Big Ten championship game. However, I did not have them in the college football playoffs last year. So
You had him as a one-win squad winning the Big Ten, but not making the college football playoff, I recall. And I recall having an argument about
I
this.
had Ohio State winning the Big Ten last year, T-Cell. So before you start throwing outrageous takes, I got everybody's notes here. Do you want to hear how well you did in your Final Four prediction?
It was a lot better than you.
Yeah, because you
had
predicted
Nebraska in your Final Four.
You
Hold up,
said
Mr.
USC was going to be the only undefeated team in college football last year. Your hot take was USC would be the only undefeated football team. You had them as a number 1 seed, and I believe Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams led that team to 6 wins.
I picked the wrong Pac-12 team. USC, Washington, same difference. They're on the West Coast. I was picking.
Anything on
a
the
Pac-12
other side
team.
of Colorado just blurs together. So now apparently he's right.
Let me get this straight. So we're going to be trusted. Mr. C's get degrees is the motto we live by. His notes coming from this. That's the guy we're going to be. I don't even think any of this was said from my standpoint.
And is it even legible? I mean, at this point, is it even legible? You're just making this up as you're reading it because your handwriting's that bad?
Now, T-Cell, as bad a take as your USC one was, I'll give you that. J-Cell had his 4 seed as the green wave of Tulane last year.
And you better believe they got ranked and they were on a roll if it wasn't for the terrible, terrible refs blowing the game. I want to say it was against an SEC foe, and they cheated to have Tulane lose that game.
Now, J-Cell, I'm gonna ask you a quick question here because Tulane wouldn't need to go undefeated to make the college football playoffs. We know that. Didn't they lose 2 or 3 games last year?
Well, I thought he had Houston going undefeated.
That was 2 years ago, T-Cell. 2 years ago, he was on the Cougar caboose.
Once you lose the first one, the rest doesn't matter if you're the green wave.
The floodgates open.
And so who were your Final Four there, B-Cell? Because you seem to be ignoring your picks. Let's hear how right you were.
He doesn't even have a single one in there.
Does it matter? Who? Alabama? Wow, great job.
Alabama, who should have never made it, mind you.
Mind you, that was who J-Cell picked preseason last year to be his number 1 overall seed.
And you better believe it, I picked him right in there.
I actually stand corrected. I had 0 of the Final 4 right last year.
See,
and how many did I have right?
Notes. All of a sudden, he's changing this. We're trusting this guy's notes.
T-Cell, you had 1 right.
Who was that? Michigan?
That would be Michigan.
Who were my other picks? There's no way I only had 1 right.
Give me the break.
USC.
Well, that's Washington. USC, that's half a point. So keep going.
Michigan.
Okay.
LSU.
Okay.
Florida State.
Well, Jason would give me Florida State. I mean,
nope. Hey, Bissell, did I have Florida State by?
No, you did not. You had.
Then we're not counting it. You better believe that.
You had Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Tulane. So you had all of 1
and Tulane.
Hey,
were you the guy? Maybe. Wait, hold on. Was Jason the guy who called into Clemson to rip apart Dabo Sweetie because he picked him as his preseason guy?
If it wasn't him, it might have been me because listen, Dabo should have figured it out last year. But I got to tell you, as I am looking across the board here, I think every single person that we had on to do their picks last year had a very surprising pick in there. And I think my favorite one of it all was good old Double D picking the Golden Domers in Notre Dame. I never thought I would have seen the day. And now I think when we get him on again this year for the preseason, I think we got to ask him, with the playoffs expanding, does he think Notre Dame gets in?
And I heard Double D was shopping Notre Dame hats the other day, too.
Talking about Clemson, I got the Gator Bowl Cup right here. It's Nebraska, versus Clemson. Who would have thought that was Dabo's first year? And to go into that game, the Bo Pelini Cornhuskers come out victorious. And 4 years later, unfortunately, Dabo Swinney found a way to win the national championship. Therefore, I'm going back on my hot take. I've said it once and I'll say it again. We got to go to the Gator Bowl and we got to lose. 4 years later, national champions. Happened the same way when we took on Georgia and knocked them down there.
Sounds like we just need to put a scrimmage out there in the Gator Bowl in January. Just a team scrimmage, red versus white.
Listen, I agree with you, J-Sol. I think there's got to be something out there in the waters. But before we even get ahead of ourselves and talk about bowl game, I got to ask you guys. We talked about we talked about running backs, we talked about quarterbacks. What did you guys think about the receivers here in the spring game?
Now, before we get to the receivers, I do want to say he's kind of a hybrid, I would call him. Bonner, that dude can catch. He has the ability to play almost every single position. I would put him as a Heinrich Harburg who can't throw the ball and a faster guy. He caught a touchdown from Dylan Raiola, and I thought that was phenomenal. That's a fullback that gets you an extra position out there. He's a guy that can go out there. He can block. He can get the ball and run it downhill because he's a bigger guy. And then he's out there catching balls, like looking like a tight end. Phenomenal outing from Bonner out there. And for the wide receivers, there's only one guy you got to take away that looked phenomenal. I mean, Malachi wasn't in the game. He's not playing. He got bigger in this offseason, so I'm really excited to see what he does during the season. But it's got to be Jalen Lloyd. I mean, the track star, football star, the super talented athlete is going to show promise this year.
I think Jalen Lloyd is going to be a game changer here from day one. You are going to have, regardless, well, as long as it's not Harburg, even though he's shown some growth here, Danny Kaelin and Dylan Raiola are not going to miss a wide open deep threat. The amount of times that Jalen Lloyd had to slow down last year on a wide open streaking play, Malachi Coleman had to do the same thing. You know, last year you had these guys, they were wide open running down the field and they had to stop to try and catch the ball. These quarterbacks we brought in this year aren't going to make them stop. These guys are going to be able to be streaking down the field. They're going to catch that. And I think Jalen Lloyd with Satterfield's offense this year is going to shine.
And you know, we're talking about depth chart at wide receiver. I mean, who's in charge of this ourlads.com where they're showing this Nebraska depth chart? I mean, these guys drunk while they're filling this out? Because I got a different starting 3 wide receiver than what they show. And I got a different starting tight end too. I'm wondering what these guys are judging their facts on and putting it in there. Because, I mean, to me, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda is a good wide receiver, but the dude hasn't played more than one game for us. I mean, he's played one game and gets out for the season. So I'm figuring something else out there. I'm looking for Malachi to fill in, and I'm looking for Jalen Lloyd. I don't know who Jamal Banks is or Isaiah Namer. I think they're both transfers in, and I don't know that I'm slotting them in as number 1 and 2.
However, they are coming in. They're upperclassmen, and they did show promise. These guys have some talent there, T-Saw, and they have been showing out in the spring practices leading up to this game. Nair, I believe, is coming from ASU. He's got sheer speed. He's a guy that he's a sure-handed catch, and I think that's going to be a good opportunity to get him the ball and get him out there. But they're going to be flipping guys back and forth. And then you got Jamal Banks, a big wide receiver out on the outside. I believe he's 6'4", 6'5", and he's coming from Wake Forest. This guy also has talent. Now, he's not as fast.
All the juggernauts come from Wake Forest there, Jason.
Now,
Wake Forest did have a good offense the past 2
also
years.
is coming from Texas too, just so you know.
Oh, that's right. He is coming from Texas. Texas, ASU, what's the difference? They both suck, and I don't like them. Listen, Jamal Banks is a big guy, and he's coming from Wake Forest. Wake Forest have a top offense the past 2 years, and they had a slow-moving offense. So that just means that he had the ability. I mean, first of all, they had an offensive line that could block for their quarterback, but he had the ability to where he would keep moving and find a way to get open.
Okay, well then, Jason, if you're so on board with the rankings at our lads, your top running back didn't even make their depth chart. Emmett Johnson's nowhere to be found. They got Irvin, Ramir Johnson, and then Dante Dowdell. So
No. I
where's
didn't
your
say
buddy
I was
Emmett
riding
Johnson?
with them. I didn't say I was riding with them.
Now-
But I did say that I think we have 3 running backs that could be filling in to run the ball downhill, and that's Gabe Irvin,
But you
Emmett Johnson,
said
and Dowdle.
Emmett Johnson was a clear number 1, and our lads didn't even decide to put him on the depth chart.
I never said he was a clear number 1. I said he has the ability to be the number 1, but I think there's going to be a lot of switching to keep the guys' legs fresh. But it's really going to come down to the offensive line and how our running backs are going to do.
Well, let me ask you this, Jay. So are you starting Nate Borkature over Thomas Fidone?
You know, T-Cell, Thomas Fidone, he is a good player, but he's had trouble staying healthy. Last year was his first year staying healthy. He is a sure-handed catcher. So I think if you're going out there on a 3rd down looking to pass the ball, or you're looking to pass the ball in general, Fidone out there is obviously, you're going to be your number 1 choice there.
Now,
however, if you're going to be running the ball there, T-Cell, running it downhill and looking to run the ball, I think Borkature is the better pass or the better blocker.
Oh, that is a load. That is a low. Borkature is a receiving tight end, and that's it. He is not a blocking tight end. Fidone does it all.
Borkature is a better blocker than Fidone. And T-Sol, here's another
must
part.
Work it. Our lads.
What you don't understand also is the our lads has taken into account the people who have sat out most of the spring practices. J-Cell, I don't think Emmett Johnson is fully healthy this spring. I thought he's been sitting out nursing an injury, which is why he's probably not listed on the depth chart there, T-Cell. I think they've locked in Gabe Irvin there just based on what they're expecting, even though he has not been playing.
If that's the case there.
And to go onto the tight end aspect of it.
That's faulty voting there, Beasel. How could you leave out a running back you expect to be the starter, but because he didn't play in the spring, you're not even going to rank him? That makes no sense at all.
So he never played in the spring, and he doesn't get ranked by these guys. But Malachi Coleman, who also never played in the spring, got ranked as 2nd on the depth chart.
I'm just telling you, I believe that has something to do with it. Malachi's been practicing. He just didn't play in the scrimmages. So I think that has something to do with it because I don't think Emmett Johnson has been fully practicing. The next part that I want to let you know also is when you're looking at the tight ends here, you're also leaving out that coming up after this summer and going into camp before fall, you're going to have Carter Nelson in there as well.
And he's going to be seeing the field a ton. Yeah,
absolutely. You're not going to redshirt that kid. That kid is going to be a game changer. He's going to be out there. And I think that, again, with Borkature, Fidone, Lindenmeyer, Nelson, that tight end room is going to be deep. These guys are going to have fresh legs, and you are going to see breaking speed from the tight end position out of Nebraska this year.
I think the tight ends have a chance to outshine the wide receivers on the season. I could see us being a heavy tight end set, running 2 and 3 tight ends every play, and on the outside you just have speed wide receivers.
And with using double tight end sets and things like that, it gives your quarterbacks, especially if you're starting a young guy, a true freshman here, it gives them a safety outlook. It gives them a guy who should be open within 5 yards, should be a quick outlet, because let's face it, we all know this offensive line isn't stellar. So what are we expecting here? 3-step drop, get rid of it. So if you need to go to the tight ends, that's great. If Jalen Lloyd clearly beats the guy, 3 steps, loft it up to him. That is your passing game this year.
And Jalen Lloyd isn't the only one that's got speed on the outside. I think,
I'm just picking on Lloyd, but let's face it, every single one of these guys can fly. Isaiah Nair is going to be breaking, game-changing speed on the outside, whereas Lloyd's probably going to be your guy streaking down the slot.
And I think Malachi Coleman and Jamal Banks are probably going to be switching off at the X in the number 1 wide receiver spot. They're just the bigger guys out there. They're going to have the, best opportunity on the outside going against the number 1 cornerbacks on the field. Just being sure size there. But I do want to say, I think they hammered it in on the quarterbacks. Now, you guys might come back at me with a little hate or whatnot, but I watched that game. I think Harburg improved a lot from last year. Now, there is a drop-off. Obviously, Rayola is number 1, but Harburg, I think, outshined Kalen. He's got, more true game speed.
Agree.
He's got, true game speed, but he's been there. He's done it. He's gone through the reps. He knows the offense. Now, Danny Kalin, he's got great accuracy, but he doesn't have sheer arm strength, and he's also not fast and doesn't really look to run. And I think that's where it separates, Harburg, who also isn't the best passer, but I think that's where it separates them is he is able to scramble and make plays happen to where Danny Kalin lobs the ball and it's a soft pass to where it's on the money, but it has a lot of opportunities for the defenders to jump in front and pick it off.
What short-term memory loss did you guys suffer? Did you not watch last season with me? I'm a fan and a guy who never forgets. And
my Kool-Aid cup is filled back up, baby.
I did not forget what I watched with Harburg. I don't care what you say, what he did right, whatever. I watched him throw to safeties over the top with a wide receiver not within 15 yards of the ball. Wondering where the hell was that? If you think he's our second best option, then we better start walking out there on campus right now and start recruiting guys to come out here and play quarterback because Harburg is not my second option. The guy
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair.
I would have kept Purdy at this point. Purdy was way better than this guy.
Purdy was not better. Was not
a million times better. A million times better. Harburg's not a quarterback.
No, and what you're sitting here arguing with us is the guy hitting the safety over the middle with that wide open wide receiver was Jeff Sims. He's gone.
I think it was all of them.
You got some.
No, Sims kept fumbling the ball. Harburg was the one just tossing it right over to the safety.
No, Sims
I think he had more interceptions than Sims. I wouldn't be shocked if Harburg led all of college football in turnovers. And you guys are sitting here saying, it wouldn't be so bad if he took the field. Yes, it would. It would be detrimental to the season, is what I'm telling you right now.
Not even close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot more than close. The games won't be close, is what you mean.
So, Tisa, let's look at this here.
Beasel, I got a question for you. Did you enjoy that Colorado beatdown last year? Because if you start Harburg, we're sure to get another one.
So you mean the Colorado beatdown that came at the hands of Jeff Sims, correct? So you're sitting here telling me that Heinrich Harburg was the reason we lost that game.
I didn't.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? No. You just said he's the worst quarterback in college football. You said he had more turnovers than anybody.
I think he did.
So I really don't know where you get your facts. So let's just start with this, okay? just hear me out. So Harburg started a handful of games last year. And going off my, trying to remember exactly here, but Jason, will you chime in? Would you say he started 6 of the games, roughly?
Yeah, about. I know he got the 4 wins there in the middle of the season.
He started more than 6.
Okay, 7.
Well, Jeff Sims at least started 3, and Purdy at least started 2.
That's my point. So Harburg, in double the amount of starts that Jeff Sims had 7 interceptions on the year, right?
That's fantastic. What a great season.
Okay.
Let's put his plaque up now.
So no, what I'm trying to get across to you here with the guy hitting the wide open
So you're telling me
safety,
he had more interceptions than games? He started 5 games and threw 7 picks? That's pretty terrible there, B-Salt.
I said 6, but congratulations on your listening skills. You're doing great. Your first grade teacher would be very proud of you, T-Cell. Second thing here is you made it sound like he was turning the ball over left and right more than Sims. Jeff Sims started, J-Cell, I'm going to say 2 games. I don't know that he was out there for the 3rd game. And he had 6 interceptions, T-Cell.
So who had more interceptions? I feel like it's simple math here, B-Salt. Is 7 bigger than 6? Because I think it is.
If you did not pull the plug,
you want to know why? You want to know why 6 scared of 7? Because 7, 8, 9.
We can't sit here and guarantee that if Jeff Sims played another 3 games, he couldn't have played a flawless game with no interceptions.
I can tell you right now, if Jeff Sims had played more games last year, he would have set a record for turnovers.
Go into the
He would have
Diesel.
broken all of college football with turnovers. It wouldn't have been close. You know what he was. Listen, we bought into the hype last year with him. I get that. But if you go back and look at his turnover ratio every year, it is outrageous. And so the fact that he's getting an opportunity to go to Arizona State this year and fight for a starting job, I hope they know that they are just going to be negative in the turnover margin and it's not going to be close. The guy threw one touchdown last year, and that was in the first game of the year on a bobbled trick play that shouldn't have been a touchdown.
My bad, Diesel. I should have mentioned your Michigan game for you. Did you enjoy that Michigan beatdown from your buddy Heinrich Harburg, who couldn't even complete 50% of his passes?
I'm so glad that you brought that up because wasn't it you, T-Cell, who came out here and said that Connor Stallions was the smartest guy on the field? So let me get this straight. Connor Stallions knew exactly what plays we were running so they could put the defense in a position to make Heinrich Harburg look silly. But you're going to put that on the quarterback. You're going to put that on the quarterback. You're going to put that on the quarterback.
I think the smartest guy on the field was Jim Harbaugh because he somehow made Connor Stallions take the fall. And you didn't even mention fumbles. How many fumbles did Harburg add on to those interceptions you were talking about there, B-Sol?
Well, I want to say that I believe Jeff Sims had more fumbles than Harburg throughout
I
the
don't
year.
think so. I don't think so.
And I believe we set the turnover margin for Jeff Sims if he would have kept playing the entire year after the second game, if he would have kept starting and played every game. We had the turnover margin for him set at over or under 30 and a half turnovers. That is what we saw coming in this after the second week of the season. Thank everyone into this program that we had other quarterbacks as options. They weren't good options, but we had options.
Jason, I'm not sitting here saying that Jeff Sims should have been playing. I told you Purdy was our best quarterback, and he wasn't very good.
Whoa, you were hating on Purdy when I was calling him our best quarterback.
No, you were hating him when I was calling him our best quarterback.
Nope, I was saying Purdy from the
last year. I said Purdy needs to play, and you were like, "No, it's Jeff Sims or nothing." And Jeff Sims came in the next game, fumbled on 2 straight drives, got benched again, and you were like, "He sucks. He's the worst thing I've ever seen." B-Sol, did he not, or did he say that?
I would come out and I would tell you exactly that Jeff Sims was better than Chubba Purdy, and I would die on that hill. I would die on that hill.
Yes, you would die on that hill. You definitely would.
I will fight you on that because
nobody's fighting you on that. No, we're just going to let you sink in the quicksand up there.
Chubba Purdy is a bad quarterback. He's not good, and you have a better chance at winning a game with Jeff Sims at quarterback than you do Chubba Purdy.
So you're standing here on a pedestal preaching to the ocean. Nobody's listening to you.
You guys are both playing in your straw houses with matches. I mean, this is just the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
Let me put this into perspective for you. Let me put this into perspective for you, T-Cell. We're going to go back to the Scott Frost years. So something that you can understand, because Chubba Purdy is the exact same quarterback that Luke McCaffrey was. And you want to know who they both are worse than? Adrian Martinez, Fumble Man, and Jeff Sims, turnover machine.
Did you just compare Chubba Purdy?
No, he just
Luke McCaffrey. So
Adrian Martinez to Jeff Sims.
You're comparing an NFL wide receiver with all this talent in the books to some guy that's transferred to go sit on a different bench.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because an NFL wide receiver with all this talent, I don't want to hear that crap. The reason Luke McCaffrey got drafted is because of his brother's freaking name. Same reason that I guarantee you.
No, isn't going to get drafted.
Chubba Purdy is going to get drafted because of his brother's name. He's going to get a flyer in the 7th round because they're going to say, "Well, look what Kyle Shanahan found with Brock." I don't give a shit. Both of these guys are terrible. Neither one of them deserves a shot. Luke McCaffrey is Chubba Purdy,
who also is Heinrich Harburg.
No, Harburg's in between them, but a little bit worse than Adrian and Jeff Sims, but he's up there.
Who are you talking about now, T-Saw?
So
you said his name
you
seven
just
different ways
admitted
in this podcast.
he's worse than Jeff Sims. You just admitted that he's worse than Jeff Sims. And you're sitting here saying if he takes the field next year, it is not detrimental. We're not setting our hair on fire and running around in a circle, because that's what I'm doing if he's taking the field.
No. All I'm telling you is Jeff Sims is very talented, but he turns the ball over the same way that Adrian Martinez was.
You're sitting here saying Jeff Sims is talented. I didn't see any talent out of the guy, to be honest. I didn't see any play that I was like, wow, let's put that on a poster. He didn't have a single play like that. Not a single one.
False. If you were wearing some Minnesota gear, he had quite a few of those.
T-Sol, add to echo your point, asking about fumbles here. Harburg fumbled the ball 11 times. He lost 4 of them.
11 fumbles. Fantastic.
He only lost 4. He only lost 4.
Yeah. Here's my favorite. Here's my favorite comparison for it there, J-Sol, since you're breathing real heavy about it. Are you ready? Jeff Sims fumbled the ball 4 times. He lost 4 of them.
So he only fumbled 4 times. Harburg fumbled it 11 times.
Wait. This is the LeBron James and MJ thing, right? So you're going to tell me
I don't think this is anywhere close to LeBron versus MJ.
He's going to fumble it 11 times and only lose it 4. He's the LeBron. He's not the best at fumbling. And Jeff Sims is out there losing 4 of 4. He can't be done.
Now, I have to tell you, in a game and a half of play, Chubba Purdy fumbled twice and lost 1 of them. So I got to tell you, he's on track to lose the ball more than Harburg did. So by those stats, T-Sol, when you look at their percentages, Harburg would be the best quarterback at hanging onto the ball for Nebraska last year.
Wrong. No, because you're also leaving out who they played. You forget that Harburg played against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech and didn't turn it over at all in those games. So I don't count those games.
Look at that. Perfect.
Eliminate them.
That's a guy out there not turning the ball over. Hell, he did it twice. Jeff Sims didn't do it at all. He turned the ball over every game he got in.
All right, now jog out there against Wisconsin and don't turn the ball over. Versus Louisiana Tech. Well, coach, against Louisiana Tech, that guy was wide open every time. So I just throw it there. Doesn't matter who we're playing.
Cecil, Harburg had to go against the national champions, the cheaters in Michigan.
And he got annihilated. Annihilated, Jason.
So,
bad argument.
Chubba Purdy's out there, baby. We got a W.
Yeah. You would have had Brock Purdy's lame duck of a brother out there who would have probably turned the ball over even more than Harburg, that you would have had to pull Purdy to put Harburg back in the game. It's a terrible take by you, T-Sol. Terrible.
Well, B-Sol, all I got to tell you is this. I don't want to see Harburg on the field again as a quarterback and as our only option as a quarterback. If he's in there in the fourth quarter because we're up by 40 points, sure. Let him take the field. Let him go celebrate, trade jerseys with somebody after the game. I don't care if we're up by 30 points. I don't want to see him out there starting the game because something else happened that led us to that point.
Now T-Cell, just gotta chime in here for a second and just understand something. So just to confirm, you are putting the loss against Michigan completely on Harburg. Is that correct?
I never said that.
You said we got annihilated by Michigan. J-Cell drinking the Kool-Aid. I see you. Get ready for this one. You said that we lost the game and we got annihilated because Heinrich Harburg was our quarterback. Those were your words. Your words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just curious to understand how a team that
if we had Dylan Raiola, it would have been a closer game. Is what I'm saying.
I find that hard to believe because the defense let Michigan.
Hard to believe?
Okay, so let's just start here.
You don't think the offense with Dylan Raiola would have scored until 1 minute left in the game, we were pretty much shut out.
So let's just look here, T-Cell. Ready? Harburg turned it over, second play of the game. I'll give you that one. I 100% give you that one. Michigan opened up with, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3 straight touchdowns. Oh, okay. My bad. So Harburg was out there letting Michigan score like it was going out of style here. Like they had an
3
end
and
of the
out,
month sale.
your defense doesn't have a chance.
Hold on. No, it gets even better because Michigan had legitimately five possessions in the first half and scored on 4 of them. And the only one that they didn't score was because they came out and took a page out of Tim Beck's book and went pass, pass, pass. And the defense somehow came up with 3 incompletions. It should have been 35-0 at the half. But that's on Harburg, correct? That's on Harburg. The fact that we couldn't get more than a yard on the ground running.
Yes.
It's on Harburg. It's on Harburg that we drop passes, correct?
Yes, he's the
okay.
As the quarterback, you're the leader. The team doesn't believe in you. And so because of that, after you give up 1 score to Michigan, the defense is like, oh, crap, we already lost because look who's our quarterback. This guy's going to be lucky to sniff the end zone once.
So the team didn't believe in a guy who was coming off of 2 games in a row.
So he got pretty lucky?
Correct?
He got pretty lucky.
So the team didn't believe in a guy who just won their first 2 games of the year. They decided
against
they were going to
Louisiana Tech and Northern Illinois. Don't leave that out there, B-Cell, because nobody believes those are real wins.
Nobody cares.
It does matter who it is.
No, if you go back, let's talk about it, right? So Harburg turned over the ball on his first possession, didn't do it again the rest of the first half. That's great. So you know what? Michigan scored 1 time.
Throwing the ball at the dirt is real great.
1 time on a turnover, right? Let's go for that in the first half. Let's go back.
So let's just give everyone a round of applause because we didn't turn it over this drive, even though we went 3 and out, still punted the football away.
Is that what you're saying, Diesel? No, I'm telling you right now. If you were to go back and you were to look at the way that the other quarterbacks played against Michigan, it would have been a bigger blowout because Harburg was our best option there. And I think it's outrageous that you don't believe so. Jeff Sims against Minnesota, right? Going into half at Minnesota, we were down 3-0. Jeff Sims we had 3 possessions against Minnesota in the first half, 2 of which were interceptions. Against Michigan, we had 4 possessions, 1 of which was a turnover. If you're telling me, and they scored on it, so you're telling me right there, if Jeff Sims was a quarterback, he would have thrown the ball over twice, probably would have had more possessions because they would have scored quicker, so probably would have thrown more than 2 interceptions. That game very easily could have been like 45-0 at half. So to sit here and tell me that Heinrich Harburg is the reason we lost to Michigan and got blown out is a joke of a take. It's a terrible take. Harburg is a better quarterback than you're giving him credit for. Just because the rest of the team played like crap last year doesn't put it all on him. Against Michigan, listen, you were outmatched, you were outplayed, you were all of that. When the first possession, Michigan goes down the field and scores like that, it is a different game than it was the year before. Even the year before that, we put up a fight and we were a better team on the field than we were this past season against them. And it had 0 to do with the quarterback. That was 100% on the defense. It was 100% on Michigan knowing exactly what plays we were calling, that they were in the right position when Harburg took the ball and was trying to make plays. When the running back was trying to make cuts, it was because Michigan knew the plays 100%, and everybody knows it. It was not on Harburg, and that was a terrible take by you. I would have 0 issue with Harburg being our backup to Dylan Raiola. I would have 0 issue if they wanted to give Raiola, 50-50 timeshare with Harburg to start the season. That way he gets an understanding of how college football plays, to get the speed and everything. To sit here and tell me that he is the biggest waste of space on the team, like you said there, T-So, that's an outrageous take. Erroneous.
Well, who would you rank as your biggest waste of space? Because there is no chance that he's taking the field over Dylan Raiola in any means. And if the coach puts that down on his place, he needs to get fired now.
B-Cell, you got a different type of brew over there with the Kool-Aid. The Roulade, sorry. I was on your back the whole way. Like, yep, Harburg isn't that bad. Harburg is a good backup. Harburg can do this, and it wasn't Harburg's fault we lost to Michigan or all on Harburg. And then you brought up 50-50 splitting with Rayola. You lost me there, B-Cell.
I'm not saying
Maybe
no.
he is the biggest waste of space if you're going to tell me he's splitting 50-50 with Rayola.
I'm not saying they're going into the season and splitting 50-50 the entire season. But if you open up the first game of the season against UTEP and you want Dylan to be able to kind of see the way the game starts, get kind of a feel that maybe he's out there 2 possessions and then you take him out a third one. That way he can see, hey, listen, that's what the defense is doing here. You got to be able to read this. You got to be able to do that. It's about molding a true freshman to understand the game and to understand how quick the game moves as well at the college level. From high school to college, there's a growth. And from college to the NFL, it's an even bigger growth. Everybody gets better as you move up. And so that's all I'm saying. It wouldn't surprise me if against UTEP, you see both quarterbacks get some playing time there. And that is only to give Dylan an opportunity to A, see more about the game, and B, we're going to be blowing out UTEP. So a second quarterback's going to get some playing time there.
I think all 3 would get the opportunity to play that game if that's the case.
So the only way that Harburg is taking the field for me in the first half without Rayola in there is if Rayola comes out and throws 2 interceptions in the first 2 drives. Then I yank him. So I go, look, buddy, this ain't recess. This is a game and my job's on the line. So I'm going to put this guy out there and we'll look at you again in the second half because that's ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and let Jeff Sims jerk me around in the first half like he did against Minnesota with your 2 interceptions, like you said. My job's on the line. You're gone. You were left. B-Saw, I'm wondering if you traded. Did you have like an identical twin that I don't know about or something? Because you're the guy who wants to pull everybody. After one bad play, you're like, yeah, he's done. I don't want to see him next week. We need a new quarterback. Who is this?
First of all, that's the way it should be. All these guys are playing college football at the Division I level and the Big Ten at Nebraska for a reason, because they all deserved it and they all have the ability to play at that level. And now that we have a coach like Matt Rule that has these practices working the way they are, and everyone is getting the reps with different guys at different positions. They're working in at, seeing different schemes and everything. I think it's going to be a better look to where if a guy does make a mistake, now all of a sudden you have the confidence in the next guy stepping up and making a play.
So what do you got to say to that, B-Saw?
Harburg should be starting game 1.
What's up, brother? No, it has nothing to do with that. I'm not saying that Dylan's not going to be the starter. I think Rayola's the starter day 1. I'm just telling you, Harburg will be the backup. I don't think he's as bad a quarterback as you're leading it to be on. And I came out of the spring game, like J-Sol said, with enough of a better feeling about Harburg that you saw growth from what he did in the spring game there.
Now,
He took the steps necessary that he needed to continue to stay on the roster at Nebraska.
Now, Beazle, I believe you came out of the spring game last year thinking the same thing about Jeff Sims. And J-Sol, remind me, were you the guy who picked him to go to New York for Heisman ceremony?
He was there. He just bought his own ticket, but he was there.
Now, T-Sol, the other side here is nobody came out of the spring game saying that they saw enough growth in Jeff Sims to be on the roster. Jeff Sims was a new toy coming into Nebraska, brand new quarterback. And I can tell you right now, and I already said it, going into last season, Jeff Sims was the most talented guy on there. Jeff Sims apparently doesn't know how to hang onto the ball, and all he does is know how to turn it over. But from a sheer talent standpoint, was the most talented quarterback.
So you think that Sims is better than Harburg?
Well, Jeff Sims, from
a talent standpoint, from a God-given ability, yes.
J-Sol, is this not the opposite thing of what he was arguing 10 minutes ago?
he's got a point. Jess Sims was a new toy coming into town, seeing how it's going to work. However, this wasn't a toy you got from Amazon. This was a toy you just got from Temu for free. Listen, you invited enough people to the app to get this guy there, and let me tell you something. It broke after 2 weeks.
It was Lamar Jackson from Wish.
I can tell you this much. It definitely was no Happy Meal for me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just got to tell you guys one thing here. And looking at this schedule, regardless of who's at quarterback, we all have a feeling it's going to be Raiola. Looking at this schedule for the Huskers here coming up, guys, I know it's early. 100% I know it's early. And I've been drinking the Roulade since we ended the season. I've been drinking it since the Raiola commit. I've been bathing in it. It's getting out of hand over here. College game day is going to the Horseshoe on October 26th when the undefeated Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the Ohio State Buckeyes coming off a loss to Oregon. Ohio State has an opportunity to rebound against Nebraska. Nebraska clicking on all the cylinders, upset the Buckeyes in Columbus.
I think the Huskers have a real good shot to start 7-0. But there is only one game on the schedule that, you're going to be getting a little scared waking up on Saturday waiting for that night game. It's going to be a little terrified, because what happened last
Purdue?
year. I'm not terrified.
Is it the Boilermakers?
No, Visa. It's Dion and the boys out in Colorado, the Buffaloes, when they come to town. Listen, it's going to be a night game. It's going to be hostile. So I believe that the Huskers have the opportunity and they will foresee their future and take down Shadir Sanders. He'll be looking at his clock out there and he'll be taking and booking his ticket back to Colorado.
Well, J-Sol, I got one answer for Dion, and I'm using his own thing against him. We coming for you guys. And this time you come to our house at night. And that's why I got this guy right here, because this ain't just Donovan McNabb. You know what he says? He says, taste the future. And the future is this time, Dion, 6:30, Lincoln, Nebraska. You're going to get smoked. And you're going to see what it's like to play a real quarterback and have a real quarterback out there on the field, because Raiola ain't going to be messing around that game. It's going to be something to watch. And if you're a Colorado fan, you're going to want to be muting the TV or turning it off.
There's a new number one QB going to be on the field when these teams take on each other, and that is Dylan Raiola. It is going to be electric, and because of what happened last year, I know Matt Rule is going to be having these boys fired up. Not just what happened in the game, but the way that the Sanders went about winning that game without any class, zero class whatsoever. These guys are ridiculous. They're a disgrace to college football, except for one thing. They're doing exactly what Colorado is. They are the spitting image of Colorado, and we are going to spit on them over there in Lincoln, Nebraska when they come to town.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that game. I've been looking forward to it all season after the way that they treated us, the way the media treated us. It was so disrespectful. I can't wait for them to come to Lincoln and get a taste of what a night game really feels like in Nebraska. I mean, it's coming for them for sure. You know that this team all circled it on their thing. I mean, we're going to skip past week one. No one's excited about week one. We're all excited for that week 2 matchup against Colorado.
Yeah, I think you guys are blowing this game out of proportion here. Listen, it's a rivalry game. I get that. Everybody thought, the Dion experience last year was going to be phenomenal. They started quick, they started heavy, and then all of a sudden, they fell off when it came to conference play. And I got to tell you something, this Colorado team is garbage. They're still a bottom half team in all of college football. They're not going to be ranked. This shouldn't be close. We're going to have a quarterback who, in theory, knows how to hang out of the ball. And let me tell you, that's going to be the scariest part right here. Colorado doesn't know how to score. What do you got? Shadir Sanders. Okay, congratulations. The only guy he can throw to is Travis Hunter. So guess what? Double him. Blitz Shadur, he can't make plays when he's on the run anymore because he's so banged up after a whole year of getting hit because the offensive line is garbage. This Colorado team isn't good. It isn't great. It's going to be a blowout. It's not going to be close.
Yeah, I'm just saying the way that they treated us. I mean, you're gonna have to pay a small fortune to get into Lincoln for this game. I'm telling you, tickets are easily gonna be over $300.
Especially with the Huskers sitting at 1-0 for the first time in 6 years. The Huskers have not won the first game of the season. Yes, we haven't played a cupcake like UTEP here in the past 6 years, but finally, we should be coming out of week 1 with a win, with our, hopes even higher for the end of the year and where we will be come January.
And we saw what Texas did as soon as they got a real quarterback. It turned their program around pretty quick. That's what we expect to happen with Raiola. And you'd be crazy to think that he couldn't do it. He obviously can. And, things get in the way, but he's the man to do it. He's clear NFL talent. And that's what Nebraska has been missing these last few years. Is we just haven't had a quarterback who can get the ball to anybody. I mean, we just got lucky with Trey Palmer, the fact that you could just throw it and he'd just run catch it because he was that good. Imagine if Trey Palmer was on this team coming into this season, it would be insane. It'd be insane the stats he would put up there with Raiola. But I think Raiola is going to share the ball. I think a lot of people are going to have days where they go off and then they disappear for 2 games because other people are going off. I expect a lot of people involved on the offense this season, and I don't think that anyone's going to have a Trey Palmer type of year receiving wise because I think it's going to be a team unit for once.
Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of your favorite Cornhusker podcast, the Sully Scoop. You're here with J-Sull.
B-Sull.
And T-Sull.
And don't forget to check out the SullyScoop.com to find everything about the Scoopers and everything you need to know. Also, we have a page there. If you want to go in and try it out for us and see if it works, we got a grandstand gossip. We're trying it out, looking for a new way to get our listeners involved and, bringing questions on with an opportunity, if we like your question enough, to come on and back up your side of whatever you want the Scoopers to answer. Also, check out the Scoopers merch. And like I said before, we have a lot of stuff on there. And if you have any other ideas, we would be willing to listen and get the Scoopers merch out there on anything you're willing to, want to wear or want to rock.
Go Big Red.